In terms of increasing the competitiveness of the one financial center, for example, Hong Kong in particular, what would you recommend the government to do, or any additional works they could put into effort to increase their competitiveness as a financial center?
Yeah, I think the two big things that governments can do is, first of all, focus on human capital. Having a highly advanced workforce, both homegrown and through bringing international people into your center, seems to be a really good determinant of success.
Hi everyone, welcome to the new episode of the Way's Economic Insight. This is your host, Raymond Chan, and today we are very honored to have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Mike Wardle. Welcome to Hong Kong. I understand that this is the first time you come to Hong Kong, and how do you like it so far?
Oh, it's all very good. I remember I left London when it was about 6 degrees, so the weather is certainly very welcome at this time of year. No, I'm having a very good time. We're having very good discussions and getting to meet some good people. I mean, obviously I have friends in Hong Kong, but they're people I've either met in London or we meet online, so it's very good to meet some of those in person.
Okay. I understand that as the CEO for Yen, and it's a very, very famous and very important commercial think tank nowadays. And in terms of the Global Financial Centers Index, what do you see the importance of it, and how do you like it so far?
Yeah, so the Global Financial Centers Index is now in its 38th edition. So it's been running since 2007 based on research we did first in 2005. It's got a really good backstory because the City of London asked us to do some research into their competition back in 2005, and they said, we want to know how we're doing against Paris, Frankfurt and New York. That's the only places they mentioned. We persuaded them that actually there was a whole host of financial activity going on outside Europe and New York, and they needed to look more widely. So we've developed our research to look at now 120 centres across the world, and the growth in the number of centres that we're tracking is really due to the fact that international trade and commerce has grown over those 20 years exponentially.
Yeah. That's very impressive. That's very impressive, and thank you for bringing the worldwide financial centers together instead of just London. Okay. In terms of the global financial centers trend, what do you see the coming tendencies, or what do you see in the next decade or so? The financial centers, which cities or which sector geographically do you see have a prominent role in the world financial market?
Well, one of the things we're noticing at the moment, it's a very stable ranking at the top end of the Financial Centers Index. So New York, London, Hong Kong, Singapore, consistently the top 4, with centers like Shanghai and Seoul as well, always ranking very well. And I think that's probably going to continue. The absolute global centers, the London, New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, are going to be very hard to knock off the top of the rankings. And the reason for that is because they are truly global. If I have a problem which needs a financial solution, I can go to one of those 4 centers and I will find the people and the skills and the knowledge which will help me with my problem. And increasingly, going to any one of those 4 centers, I'm feeling at home as a businessman from wherever I am in the world. So it's going to be very difficult to knock those top 4 off. So the competition amongst financial centers is going to come in the next group, in those ranging between 5th and 20th. There's a really tight competition in that group. And then increasingly seeing emerging markets, Africa, the Middle East, really looking to improve their financial performance and their ranking. So we're seeing the groupings starting to emerge in the Global Financial Centers Index, which are starting to stabilize, I think.
It sounds like the index, the ranking itself, is very competitive. And I think the trust for the index is one of the very, very important issues. or concerns for the countries or the users. Is there any way that you would do, or the company would do, to ensure the trustworthiness and the confidence for the users or participants to be into the index?
Well, we think we have a very robust methodology, which is published. It's all available, and I think
very open.
It's very open, and the fact that we use a large range of quantitative indicators in the survey, I think, gives it some credibility. So we're not just talking about financial development. We're talking about business environment, human capital development, infrastructure development, reputation, all of which are necessary to be building a really top-class financial centre. And the one striking element if you look at any of the leading centres in the index, is that they are strong across all of those 5 pillars. Business environment is strong, human capital is strong, infrastructure is strong. Financial sector development actually isn't the thing that differentiates. The thing that differentiates is human capital, infrastructure, and business environment.
Having said that, in human capital, there's a lot of importance, there's a lot of stress on ESG, sustainability, and green finance in the past 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Does that have any impact or affect the way that you do research or advisory work?
Well, we introduced in 2018 a separate measure, the Global Green Finance Index, which actually looks at financial centres through a green finance lens. And we do see differences. We see considerable differences. And one of the things in green finance is that smaller specialist centres can perform very well in that index. So somewhere like Zurich, for example, performs very well in green finance, as does San Francisco, as does Luxembourg, as does Amsterdam, as does Copenhagen. So there are a different range of centres which have a real chance at competing when you get down to the specialist financial areas such as green finance.
Okay. So in terms of increasing the competitiveness of the one financial center, for example, Hong Kong in particular, what would you recommend the government to do, or any additional works they could put into effort to increase their competitiveness as a financial center?
Yeah, I think that the two big things that governments can do is, first of all, focus on human capital. Having highly advanced workforce, both homegrown and through bringing international people into your centre, seems to be a really good determinant of success. And whether that's London, New York, Singapore, a feature of those big centres is that they have a lot of international people, and they put a lot of effort into training and education of their homegrown workforce. So that's something government certainly can do. The other thing is to have consistent regulation. We did some work recently asking people what was more important in terms of regulation, and consistency is the thing that came out top. It's not the cost of regulation, it's not the speed of regulation, it's being consistent and having a consistent way forward in regulation. And I see Hong Kong doing that really well. I mean, it's looking at how Hong Kong regulators have looked at digitization and Web3 and distributed information. They hired data scientists so that they could have conversations with people working in the field and understand what was really going on. And that was a real feature, I think, of how Hong Kong has met the challenge of digitization.
Okay. So as you mentioned, stability and consistencies are very important factors in building a financial center. And luckily, Hong Kong at the same time has a lot of innovations, and we have some very, very new attempts. For example, the digital assets as a financial hub for the Asia, as you mentioned. Fortunately, Hong Kong has ranked quite high in the past few years in the global financial index, center index. What do you see Hong Kong as global financial centers when you compare to other global financial centers in the ranking or in the index?
Well, I think I have to say this because I'm English, and common law is actually important. Being able to structure contracts in Hong Kong, which are easily understood or easily applicable across a large part of the world, is an important thing. I think the fact that you have retained your own currency, your own regulatory system, the whole panoply of how Hong Kong can do business is a real strength. And of course, still being the gateway into the mainland China. If I want to set up a business to operate in China, I've got a choice. I can either go to Shanghai and deal in Chinese law, or I can come to Hong Kong, deal in common law, and that be applicable across the whole of China. So I think Hong Kong still has a very strong place as that gateway into the mainland Chinese economy.
So it sounds like the legal system and the currency system of Hong Kong, it's no doubt about it, it's one of the biggest advantage we have over other competitors.
Yeah.
That's very nice to know, and hopefully we will keep that for the coming futures. And in the recent years, there's a lot of geopolitical and regulatory changes globally, on a global scales. Do you think that has affected Hong Kong as a whole, and any recommendations, if there's any recommendations that we could deal with that?
I think that the first thing to say is that finance in some ways operates separately from geopolitical forces, in some ways is affected by them. And the way in which it's not affected is that support for real economic development and support for trade and trade finance continues. And the geopolitics might change how easy it is to do trade, but actually the financial services required to do trade really don't change that much. So I think the strength of Hong Kong there is that it continues to provide finance into the real economy, whether in mainland China or elsewhere in the world, and it continues to support trade. And those things are going to continue whether or not various geopolitical blocs take different views about how easy to make trade or how difficult to make trade. So I think that continues. The other thing to say, I think, is that it's clear that the US has moved away from any commitment to green finance and sustainability for the time being. It's very difficult to talk in America about ESG at all. You have to call it advanced analytics or something like that. There's ways to still do that kind of work, but you have to be very careful how the narrative you put around it. And I think there is opportunity in that for other parts of the world to assume leadership in green finance and sustainability in a way which wasn't the case when the US was taking these things more seriously. So there's opportunities always for financiers and for business people to see where opportunities lie for leadership.
Okay. Having said that, it's very nice to know. And having said that, in particular, do you see the opportunities of Hong Kong, as you mentioned, green finance, ESG, and digital assets? That's some of the areas or some of the sectors that Hong Kong or the Hong Kong government is trying very hard to develop or to innovate. What do you see the opportunities of these sectors in Hong Kong?
Well, I think, first of all, on digital, it's clear that you have a really healthy ecosystem of startups and innovative uses of technology in finance. And that is a combination of, as I say, the regulatory system taking these things seriously, but also Hong Kong is an innovative place. People come here to do innovative things because they know that there'll be an environment which welcomes that kind of approach and new ways of doing things. On green finance, the one thing where I think Hong Kong could perhaps do more is around thinking seriously about carbon trading. I know Hong Kong's big into the voluntary carbon markets, but you have the Chinese emissions trading system just over the road, kind of thing, and thinking seriously about how carbon affects transactions, whether it's in trade, whether it's in manufacturing, throughout, would be the next stage of development, I think, for Hong Kong's green finance.
In particular, when you mentioned digital assets, Hong Kong had started a new phase of digital asset sectors or development in just recent years. What do you think about the regulatory standard of Hong Kong trying very hard to develop digital assets? We are being very cautious at the moment. What do you think, or would you recommend the regulatory tightness of the regulators for us to develop digital assets?
Well, I think Hong Kong's been leading the way, actually, looking at how the regulators have worked with the digital economy. So I think do more of the same, and more of the same means continuing to have frequent discussions with the people working in innovation, people working in digital commerce, so that the regulator can stay up to date and stay relevant. You can see straight away when the regulator has forgotten to have conversations with the market, because that's when friction arises. So to keep doing what the regulatory system here has been doing, try to understand what the next thing is, and so be ready for that regulation when it's needed, rather than being 2 years always behind the game.
Having said that, for example, digital assets is one of the many examples that the one country, two system is the beauty of one country, two system, because only in Hong Kong, in Greater China, that you could do digital assets business legally and within the regulatory framework. What do you think is the importance of Hong Kong being the bridge between international countries, international investor, between Hong Kong and China? How are we doing so far as a bridge for Hong Kong to connect China with the international investors?
Well, it all seems to be going very well. Is the first thing to say that Hong Kong's reputation as a safe jurisdiction to do business and a safe jurisdiction to do business with China. There's people in Hong Kong who understand how to work in mainland China. Flows of capital are possible. We have the various connect systems between the stock exchanges, and that all seems to be working really well. So I think we continue to see investment flowing between Asian countries, and we're thinking of Japan and Korea, investing in Malaysia, investing in all parts of Asia at the moment. But a lot of those financial transactions are coming through Hong Kong, as they should be, because Hong Kong is the safe place to make that investment and to structure deals for that kind of investment. And so increasingly, I think Hong Kong will continue to be seen as the place where money can flow in and out of mainland China in a way which everyone understands is safe and secure. And what's more, the expertise is here in Hong Kong to make sense of the Western world to China and to make sense of China to the rest of the world. And that's a really important role that Hong Kong plays.
Last but not least, we understand that you guys have done a lot of research and advisories for all the global financial centers all over the world. Would you give some recommendations of Hong Kong? How do we prioritize our policy and, in terms of timeliness and the importance, shall we try to maintain the competitiveness in the global financial market?
I think Hong Kong will want to maintain its competitiveness, absolutely. And I go back to the two things I think are really important. It's the quality of regulation and the quality of people. The one time that Hong Kong has dropped back under Singapore in the Global Financial Centres Index was during the period after COVID, when it was more difficult to travel to Hong Kong, to work in Hong Kong, than it was to go to Singapore. And that's made the difference. You had suddenly people making choice to go to Singapore rather than Hong Kong for business or for work. That swung back the other way, of course, after Hong Kong reopened and everything was able to rebuild. So keep making sure you have top quality people, that the regulation is secure and stays up to date with developments in the field, and Hong Kong will have a very bright future.
So we should do what we have done very well in the past.
But more and more and more, yes.
More, yeah, okay.
Because someone else otherwise will come and do it better.
Hopefully, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Mike, for being with us today.
It's a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to Hong Kong, and
Thank
we'd
you.
love to see you more often.
Thank you very much.